Yep.
And actually a function of too leveraged to fail. When you look at it, we've tried everything, right? We've tried deconsolidated financial services. We've tried decentralized financial services. We've tried heavy regulation. We've tried less regulation. None of it matters. Okay, what matters is the amount of leverage in the economy overall. And until that is recognized and there is a forced effort globally to reduce the incentives for leverage and to increase the transparency, particularly in the public sector, about leverage, we're not going to have a stable financial.
Does that mean reducing certain restrictions on equity? People say that it's much harder to do equity than it is to do debt. There's a whole financial analysis that's out there. Is it something that we put a preference on debt in the economy versus equity?
Absolutely. The tax incentives.
The tax incentives.
There's a whole host of incentives.
Part of the leverage problem.
And like it or not, the government has to be a source of support when the economy goes in the tank. And unfortunately, leverage is the driver for it, and it's a driver irrespective of where it is.
Joe, I was reading an analysis of the financial crisis in this book called What Caused the Crisis. A bunch of economists wrote, and there's a whole piece about the preference for debt over equity being something that led us to the abyss. And you've talked a lot about the government involvement here. It's something that the government does.
Well, the other thing the government does is staggering level of regulation. I've been shocked.
Especially in equity markets.
Well, and especially financial services. Dodd-Frank, I sit on the banking committee, and as we have seen the rules come out one after another, there are hundreds of them. They are staggeringly complex. My question for you is, would we have been better off if instead of this gigantic, incredibly complex micromanagement of the financial sector, if we had simply required more capital? If we said, you know, as you grow, you need more capital, is that a better way to control risk?
It's absolutely a better way to control risk. Unfortunately, you know this a lot better than I do. It seems like the politics of the situation weren't going to allow that. The sector needed to be punished. And that is absolutely what's happening at this point. I mean, I think the only growth business in financial services is compliance.
Exactly. But of course, what that means is you can, you know, those who advocate this can pound their chest and be proud that they punish somebody, and what they punish is anybody who needs access to capital.
Correct.
Because capital becomes more expensive and less available.
All right, guys, we got to run, but thanks. Good stuff, Steve. Appreciate it. And
I'm surprised, Joe, you haven't talked about this Joe Nocera piece, which is out, which just says, what if they're right about Dodd-Frank, that there's too much regulation, and what are they talking about? Complexity risk when it comes to regulation, which is this story I did. I don't know if you were here, but we did a piece last week about all the new Dodd-Frank rules, that the missed deadlines and all the stuff that's to come yet.
Well, Steve, we're going to have answers to that because we're going to hear from Citi and Wells Fargo shortly. And
well,
you could be certain there'll be some.
We have Ken Feinberg on too, and I was looking at a Nocera piece where he said he was going to say some positive things about BP and some negative things about the people suing BP, and he said, "Don't spill your coffee," and it just reminded me of he knows who his readers are, and it's just funny to even approach it that way. That it's such a novel idea to maybe defend
BP,
defend the company rather than the shyster of lawyers. Anyway.
Andrew's going to. Andrew?
Joe, we're going to get all that. That's all coming up. We're going to be getting the latest on what happened and where we stand in the rescue efforts off the coast of Italy after that terrible cruise liner accident. Could this be Italy's BP moment? Administrator Kenneth Feinberg with his reaction and steps Italy may have to take, plus the downgrade of Europe's rescue fund and much, much more. Squawk Box is coming back right after this.